Welcome to our third training video. We are so glad that you are with us again. We hope you have watched the first and the second videos. If not, go back and watch them because it's important to have the understanding of what we've been talking about and why we're talking about it. So we talked about the acronym S.H.E.A.R. And so we talked about the first letter being S, see the image of God in the person that you're sitting with. And the letter H is hear them. And so we talked about that in our last video. And so Kaylin, if you did not get to meet her in the first two videos, which you should have because you just watched them, is here with us again. And so she's going to be continuing on with our third letter today, which is empathize with them. But to get started, I am actually going to be reading from 2 Corinthians. And it's 2 Corinthians 1 verse 3. So it starts out with, praise be to the God and Father of our Lord Jesus Christ, the Father of compassion and the God of all comfort, who comforts us in all of our troubles so that we can comfort those in any trouble with the comfort we ourselves have received from God. That is one of my favorite verses. I love
Understandably.
that. Yes, considering what we do, right?
It's a good
one. I so believe in this verse that God brings the comfort to us that we need and the things that we're going through so that we can comfort others with the things that they're walking through. And so that brings us to empathy and sitting with others in empathy and being able to, even if you haven't walked through what they've gone through, to be able to take what you've gone through and put yourself in their shoes and go, oh, that's hard, like what we talked about with the hearing. And we talked about our Brene Brown video about getting down in the pit with somebody and saying, I hear you, and then being able to empathize with them. So I'm going to pass this over to Kaylin because she's going to be teaching about empathy and empathizing with the person that you're sitting with. I think this is really important as we do our small groups, as we sit one-on-one with somebody. If somebody's in your life going through something hard, it's very beneficial. So, Kaylin, I pass it to you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gosh, I think this is just like such a key tool that we can use in terms of like creating connection. And that's what I loved in the Brene Brown video is just the value of empathy is a connection with another person. And so, we can sit and we can listen, but still we're just like kind of out here more. We're more like forming the space that someone can just be in. But empathy is the moment that we like come in and enter with them and say, hey, I'm like feeling this with you because it matters. And so I think that like connection point is like the most important thing. And with that, I think if you remember last week, I also talked about this metaphor of using like a weighted ball that someone's carrying and they hold it out. And so hearing them is a way that we can just reach out and hold it also. But empathy is when we are holding it with them and say, wow, this is really heavy. And we can start talking more about like the impact of this thing that now we've talked about. And so when you take it a step deeper and, people can share all about this big event or this thing that happened, and listening is so good. And then when you can enter in with like pinpointing the emotion of it, because emotions fuel so much of our experience. I think that when we can sit and like acknowledge the emotion behind an experience, because that's what's driving into the heart, not just the mind. But obviously the heart influences the mind. And so I think that when we can just sit and acknowledge emotion and like not be afraid of the big emotion that comes with these things, but just without judgment say, hey, feel all of that. And you can feel it here with me, and I'm not afraid of what you're feeling. Just bring it here. I think is the gift and the value of empathizing with somebody. So I think that one of my very favorite phrases that I had a professor talk about one time, he said, when someone shares something hard, some of the most empathetic words that you can use with them is just to say, it is like the weight of the world is on your shoulders. And I think that is so pointed in saying, I see how much this is, and I see the way it's on you and how much you carry. And wow, that's a lot. So I think that can easily be a go-to phrase to make someone say, like, feel empathized with. I think that you can also just like reach in and say like, hey, that's really sad. Hey, that's frustrating. And sometimes they will, like, if someone's talking, they can tell you like very explicitly, like, hey, I'm mad about this. Or they can just talk about a situation, but they're really heated and they're talking like this and da 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 da. and you can tell they're angry, but maybe they haven't said it. And then that's an implicit emotion. And I think there's a lot of value in entering into that and saying, like, man, that's frustrating. Because then you're also opening the door for them to express and experience the emotion behind something and maybe help give them words. And don't just like, say, oh, you are feeling da da da. Maybe just offer, like, oh man, if I were in your position, I'd be frustrated. How does that make you feel? And then that's empathizing good in that way too, but not just speaking for them. So opening up that space for empathy, I think, is so valuable. But when we look even biblically, I think that Jesus is such a pivotal and crucial example of this. And if we're going to be continually reflecting the heart of Christ, I think that empathy goes right along with it. Because yes, Jesus was like a miracle worker and he can fix and he can do anything. And he didn't always jump to that. A lot of times he would pause first and he would just empathize with people. We have so many verses where he's just moved by compassion. And if we can sit in like the compassion of Jesus, man, what was that compassion feeling? Was it sitting in sorrow with others? Was he feeling joy? Sure. Was he also like probably frustrated? Absolutely. And I love the story of Lazarus where Lazarus has passed away and Jesus comes, and with Lazarus' sisters, he doesn't automatically just say like, oh, don't worry, don't cry, don't be sad. At least he's going to raise again in a couple days.
Don't say at least.
Don't say at least.
We said that last video.
That's right. And in the Brene Brown video, you'll see that. He doesn't do that. He just sits and he weeps. And we have that he weeps verse, and it's just 2 words, and we can kind of brush over that. But there was like a time frame around that, and we don't know how long Jesus wept with them. And I think when we can just think of a very human Jesus, knowing that something's going to get better, but choosing not to say that, instead choosing just to empathize and feel with these women, is a really, really beautiful and powerful space that we can then reflect that heart of Christ to others by saying, I'm not going to fix this, but man, I'm going to sit with you and say, this is really sad. And I'm really sorry that you experienced that. And this is frustrating. And this is confusing. And I don't have a fix for it, but I'm here in it with you. And I feel that with you because it matters.
Yeah.
I think that that is a really powerful and important thing that we can do. And the only way that we can do that with others is if we're comfortable with our own emotions. And so I think that that's like another layer that then we're going to kind of like switch gears a little bit to talk about, but just how do we sit with our own emotions and be familiar with our own emotions so that we're not overwhelmed or intimidated by the emotions of others. So yeah, anything that you want to add?
Oh, I know. I think that is so right on. And I think often if we're not comfortable with our own frustration or allowing ourselves to feel what we're feeling, it is really easy to come in and try and fix it for somebody else because we're fixers. That's what we do. And so I love that. I think being able to sit and know how to walk through our own emotions is really important. So I know you have an exercise for them.
I do. Yeah. I do. Yeah, I think that today we just kind of want to invite you to pause and to reflect. And again, just come into the present moment and just say like, okay, what am I feeling right now? What big emotions have I been going through? Because it's easy to focus on the emotions of others. It's easy to focus on the next thing that we have to get done on our task list. And it's like, oh, I'll just deal with the emotion later. Let me just barrel through and get something done. And this is just a space to say like, hey, actually those things can go on the back burner. And the thing that can come forward for you is your emotion. And so what is like one dominant emotion that you have been feeling today or recently? And let's not be afraid of it. And so I'm a very imaginative person. I've like explained this to Jenny. I love just like tools and thinking a little bit outside of the box. And so this is a tool that's helpful for me. You can find a version of it that works for you. But for me, a space of familiarity is a kitchen table. My family was always really big on like we sit and we talk at the table and nothing's off the table when we're at the table. And so that's just then a practice that I bring into being familiar with myself and my own heart and soul. And so if I'm feeling a dominant emotion, I love to imagine that I'm welcoming that emotion to come and just like sit at the table with me and say, hey, anger, have a seat and tell me what's going on, because I think that we can think like, oh, I am my anger. but to say, hang on, I am still me, and my anger is here. And anger, what are you trying to indicate to me? What are you trying to do? And what would you say to me? And what do I need to say to you? So just imagining like having almost a dialogue with that emotion. And then from that, okay, me and anger or me and sadness, we're sitting having a little conversation of what's going on here. And then once I've kind of sat with that, okay, Jesus, will you come and join us? And will you sit here and will you tell me what you say about this emotion? And is this drawing me closer to the Lord or farther? Because I think that that's really indicative of how to handle an emotion is, okay, where is this leading me in faith to? And sometimes anger is a good thing because it's raising a red flag to say, hang on, something is off here. And then instead of moving from anger, then you can move forward, but it still is important to acknowledge. And so I think that when we can pause, acknowledge our emotion, then also bring the Lord into that emotion, it's really powerful. So you can do something like that if that's helpful, but just kind of as like question prompts, what I would say is just take a minute and what emotion is coming up for you? What are you feeling today? And if that emotion had something that it was trying to say to you, what, and you were to listen, like, what is it that it's trying to say? And maybe write that out, write it down. And then from there, what do you think that God would say to that emotion that you're feeling? And I invite you just to like take that time and take that space and invite the Lord into it and be familiar and comfortable with whatever it is that you're feeling.
So we're not going to pause the video this time and let you do it, but we are expecting that you are going to take the time right after this video. So do take that time. And I love that you invite Jesus into that space too, because obviously we can have that conversation with all of our emotions, and our feelings are our feelings, but God brings truth. And often when I do something like that, and I journal a lot, so I will journal all of my like what I'm feeling, why I'm feeling it, all of the things, and get it all out on paper.
Yeah.
But often, as I'm writing, I'm like, God, where are you in this? And what is going on in me in this? And then I start to feel His presence and or the Holy Spirit guiding me to a certain verse, and then I'll write that verse, and I'll be like, okay, what do I need to focus on for that verse, and what is it that you're saying about all of these things that I'm feeling? And so as small group leaders and our leaders as a family care, you're meeting with different people all the time. So take the time to do this for yourself so that you can also then go forward and do it with the people who come to your groups this semester, or as you sit with somebody one-on-one. So we pray blessings over you this week, and we'll look forward to talking with you next week.